Greetings, everyone. Good morning. I'm so glad you're here today for the Backyard Bird Challenge. My name is Christine, and I am here with my fantastic naturalist teacher, Sarah, who will be the co-host. Together, we will be able to see if you have any chat or questions throughout the program. I was trying to figure out my chat, and I think I've got it, Sarah. It came up. So I can now see what everyone says. So if you have a question, feel free to use the chat box feature, which is at the bottom of your screen, or the Q&A feature at the top of your screen. And don't worry, it won't get too confusing or distracting. Only Sarah and I can see what you have to say, and we'll try and answer your questions as they come up. Let's see. I'll try and advance my slides. All right. We both work at the Montana Natural History Center, which is in Missoula, Montana. You can try out your chat feature right now by typing in where you're tuning in from. And Sarah, my chat went away again, so I'll have to ask you to give us some updates on where people are watching from. Maybe you're in Missoula, or maybe you're far away. But you can always go to the Montana Natural History Center website for more resources. And you can tune in next week on Tuesday at 10:30 to see another Nature Webs program. Do we have anybody, Sarah?
Yes, so far it looks like we're mostly from Missoula and some Helena as well.
Fantastic. Well, welcome everybody. I'm so glad you're here today. We're going to learn how to conduct a backyard bird challenge. It starts the minute you step outside. And by backyard, it could mean any area near where you live. So this could be a local park, or it could be from the sidewalk, anywhere that you have birds. Have you ever gone on a scavenger hunt, or maybe followed a treasure map to find hidden treasure? Birding is a lot like that. You're searching for something beautiful and amazing. But instead of finding golden doubloons, you're finding a beautiful bird. We're going to learn how today to become a little bit better birders by practicing some certain birding skills. And we're going to learn how to record what we see. We'll also meet some common backyard birds along the way. So let's get started. We're going to imagine that we step outside, we hear a noise, we look around, and this is the first bird that we see. A European starling. This is a very common bird all across North America. We may have seen them before, but we maybe didn't pay very close attention to all of the details. We're going to practice our naturalist skill of observation to pay close attention to details in birds today. So look at this bird closely. What do you notice? What do you wonder? Does it remind you of anything? You can look at the patterns and colors, trying to recall all the details that you can. If you want to, you can type into the chat box anything you might notice. And Sarah can read those out if they come up. All right, now we're going to challenge ourselves a little bit. Here's an outline of that same bird. Can you fill in the outline with the colors and patterns that you remember from the previous photo? You can start at the beak, go through the head, work your way down the body and back to the tail. What do you remember? All right, let's see how you did. Here's our starling again. Sarah, do we have anything that people noticed?
Yeah, we had some really great observations. A lot of people mentioned the really sharp beak, and one great description said it looks like space, kind of. Lots of colors, iridescent feathers, and sort of blue tinge in there as well. Great observations. Some white spots.
Fantastic. That is wonderful. Yes. A lot of you noticed that yellow sharp beak. And starlings are very interesting in that they have a beak that changes color throughout the year. During their breeding time in the summer, their beak is yellow. But in the winter, their beak is black. And their feathers are interesting too. When they grow in, they have white tips, giving them a spotted, speckly appearance. But those tips wear away, called wear molting. So by this time of year, the bird is going to be a little bit more glossy, black and iridescent. Some of those words that you brought up in your observations and that you noticed, the green and purple. Starling is very common, not native, but very fascinating. It can mimic up to 20 different sounds. Maybe there's one outside right now. Next, we're going to practice our naturalist skill of observation by looking at differences in common birds to pick out the details, the differences. These are two raptors that are very common around Missoula in the winter. We have a rough-legged hawk and a red-tailed hawk. They might be in the same place and they might be about the same size. So how do you tell them apart? Go ahead and look closely and see what kind of differences you can pick out. You can type into the chat box anything you notice, and Sarah will mention some of those out loud. Maybe look at the colors, any patterns. What are people seeing, Sarah?
Different colors on the heads, a little bit different shape tip of beak, different colors of the beak, different colored head again. Neck lengths are different.
Nice. So we're picking up on some important features. Maybe the shape of the beak. These birds both have a pretty pointed beak, a hooked beak, because they are raptors. But there is a big difference with the color of their head, which a lot of you saw. The rough-legged hawk has a white head, and the red-tailed hawk has a brown head. Wonderful. And I think some of you may have also noticed the color of their belly. The rough-legged hawk has this nice dark brown belly band. The red-tailed has a white one. So by looking at these differences, we're able to notice what the bird could be when they're in the field, perched or maybe even flying by. We can identify them. Let's get to another one. It's a little harder. Okay, here we have the cedar and Bohemian waxwings. These are also really common around your backyard in Missoula. The cedar waxwings are more commonly here in the summer, while the Bohemian waxwings are more here in the winter. But there can be some overlap. You might have the same birds in your backyard at the same time. So how do you tell them apart? Look carefully at these two birds and see what you notice. What are the differences that you can pick out so that you would be able to identify them? You can go ahead and type that into the chat box, and Sarah can read off some of the things that you see.
All right, we're starting with different colored bellies, the tails, more color on the body of the cedar waxwing, yellow tip on the tail, cedar waxwing again, red on the wing. Stomach colors are different.
Fantastic. You've seen so many differences between these two birds. Some of them might be the color of the belly. So the cedar waxwing definitely has a pretty yellow belly. And the Bohemian has a gray belly. Some of you noticed maybe some of the red on the tips. Looks like they're a little more easy to see, more prominent on the cedar, but the Bohemian has some small little red tips of their feathers on the wings too. Some of you may have been looking at the feathers under the tail, called the undertail coverts. On the cedar waxwing, they're white. And on the Bohemian waxwing, they're rusty. These are a couple of ways you can identify these two different birds. Wonderful job. The things that you've been noticing, the patterns and the colors and some of the shapes, are the field marks which make up the topography of a bird. Birders have vocabulary words to refer to all these different parts on a bird that might be a different color or have a certain pattern. And by using these vocabulary words, they can describe a bird very accurately to each other. And this can help them identify the bird, which is what you've just been doing. Birding is all about practicing the art of observation and looking at details. It's a good idea to look carefully, say what you notice out loud, then maybe make a little sketch or drawing before you look up the species of the bird. We're going to practice right now with some of the describing of details and the drawing or recording of what we see. You can go out and grab your pens and paper and pencils if you have them, maybe a hard writing surface like a book, or if you're at a desk or a table. And we're going to work together to describe and draw this bird. Our drawings are going to be fast sketches, so more like shapes and patterns and colors, really quick little sketches, as if we were out in the field and the bird is hopping and flying around. Our first bird that we see is very common around here and in your backyards. Does anybody know what it is? You can say it out loud. You can type it into the chat box too. Ready? The black-capped chickadee. Such a cute little bird. All right, now I'll describe and you can draw. Here we go. This bird has a fairly round body shape and a big round head. So the overall impression is kind of a round looking bird. It has a long tail, which is about the length of its body. And its wings are fairly small. They go to about the base of the tail. It has a really teeny tiny beak. Look how small that is. It's about 1/8 of the size of the head. I wonder what a small beak like that could be for. You might know. Probably for looking for some insects in the bark. And it has a black cap, like its name, the black-capped chickadee. The black cap goes from the beak, under the eye, to the back of the head. And it has a little black neck patch too. It has a white stripe that goes from the beak under the eye to the back of the neck. The breast and belly are kind of a buffy tan, and the back and wings and tail are gray. How does your sketch look? Does it have those patterns and shapes? Fantastic work. It's fun to draw birds. Now we're going to do it in a bit of a game. If you're watching on your own, you're going to describe and draw at the same time. If you're watching with an adult or family or friend, one of you is going to be the describer. You'll look at the bird on the screen and describe the details just like I did. The other person is going to be the drawer. They're going to turn away from the screen and they're going to draw what they hear from the describer. Again, this is going to be a fast sketch, very quick. So, drawer, get your pencils and pens and paper and turn away so you can't see the bird on the screen. Describer, are you ready? Okay, the first bird is going to fly into the frame. Here it goes. Now the describer can describe out loud what they see for the drawer. The describer can also put what they notice into the chat box, and Sarah can read out some of the things that you might be describing. You can look at the shape of the bird, beak, and patterns or colors. Has anyone entered anything into the chat box there that we would like to share?
Not yet. I think we're pretty busy doing our drawing and describing to friends. Oh, there we go. Orange belly.
Nice. So for those of you out there, there's an orange belly. Look at the patterns and colors. You're doing a great job of describing out loud. And the drawer is doing a wonderful job of drawing along with the describer. It looks like someone raised their hand. Sarah, can you read this person's question? I'll see if I can. Okay. We're getting towards the end of this bird, so now the drawer can turn back. Look at the bird on the screen. How did you do? Did the describer get all the important details? Does your bird sketch look like this bird? Does anyone know what this is? You can say it out loud. Ready? It's the red-breasted nuthatch. You may have noticed the eye stripe, that black stripe going right through the eye, the black crown, and maybe that long, sharp bill, a lot longer than the chickadees in the previous photo. This nuthatch can excavate its own holes for nesting. And it probes through bark, along the leaves, twigs, looking for insects to eat. Ready for our next bird? So we'll switch. The person who is just drawing is now going to be doing the describing, and the drawer, or the describer, will get to do the drawing. So switch materials. Drawer, you turn away from the screen. Are you ready? Here we go. This next bird has just flown into the frame. Let's look at its shape. The describer can mention maybe colors or patterns, the length of the tail, the beak. If you want to, you can type what you notice into the chat box, and Sarah can say out loud any of those things that you see. Maybe you've seen this bird before.
Noticing a spotted belly.
Nice. Yeah, those spots are beautiful. When you look closely at a bird, you can see so many amazing details. Okay, this goes pretty quickly. Do a few more descriptions. Get those colors in. Nice work. Are you ready, drawer? Go ahead and turn towards the screen. How does your drawing match what you see? Did the describer do a good job of getting all those details? Wonderful. Did you see that long beak? About as long as the length of a head. This is a woodpecker. Anyone know what it is? Let's say it out loud. Northern flicker. Nice work. Although it's a woodpecker, it spends a lot of its time probing for insects like ants in the grass. You might see it hopping around down there in the yard. Had that nice red mustache coming down from the beak. That tells us it's a male. Has that black breastplate, and you can even see red underneath the tail feathers. It's a beautiful backyard bird. The next two we're going to do together. We'll describe them and draw them at the same time. Again, these are going to be very quick sketches. This first one is a bird that has sort of an oval body and a longer oval-shaped head. But look at that beak. Big and chunky and fat, a lot different than the other beaks we've just seen. Wonder what that tells us about what the bird eats. Might suggest that the bird is eating a lot of seeds and plant material. It has that nice red head and a red chest, stripes down the belly. The red color comes from the food that the bird eats. So different individuals might have varying colors of red depending on what they're eating. This is a male, and it is more red than the female. Do you know what it is? Say it out loud. It's a house finch. They have a beautiful song. Maybe listen for them later today when you go outside. Here's our last one to describe and draw together. You can describe out loud too, or along with me. You can even write some of your what you describe or notice into the chat box if you want. All right, we may have seen this bird before, but let's look carefully at the details. It has a pretty pear-shaped, big round body and a little round head. Look at that eye ring, that white eye ring around the eye, and the yellow beak, and the red breast. Looks like there's white on the undertail coverts, those feathers under the tail. And a gray back, gray wings. I bet you might know what this is. You can say it out loud. It's the American robin. It has a beautiful song as well. I hope you find one today. We've been sitting down for a little while, so now it's time to get up and move. Sometimes when we're out birding, we might see a bird fly by, and they're so fast that we can't pick out those patterns and shapes that make up the field marks. Instead, we can find some clues in the way that it flies. We're going to start with a chickadee. It has short little wings, it's a small bird, and it flies really fast. It flaps its wings really, really quickly. So go ahead, shake out your hands and arms, stand up, jump up and down a little bit. Now try and flap your wings or your arms as fast as you can. Really, 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 really fast. Nice. Chickadees can flap their wings 27 times in 1 second. Do you think you can do that? Let's find out. I'm going to count from 1 to 2. You count how many times you can flap your arms. Ready? 1, 2. How many did you get? You can type it into the chat box if you want, and Sarah can read it off. Did we get any high scores, Sarah?
Somebody managed to go 6, which is pretty impressive.
6 is great.
Couple 6s. 1 10. 8.
Nice.
Wow. I'm super impressed.
Yeah, 10 flaps in 1 second. Fantastic work. All right, everyone. Would you like to try another one? Let's do our flap, flap, glide with the northern flicker. This bird has a really bouncy flight pattern. Kind of goes like this as it flies because it's flapping, and then holds its wings down against its body and gliding. So it does a flap, flap, glide, flap, flap, glide. You can go ahead and flap, flap, glide all around the room. Give it a try. Everyone in the room, adults too, feels good. And it's a fun and funny way to move. When you're outside today, you might notice a northern flicker flap, flap, gliding from tree to tree. Fantastic work. Now that we've looked at the field marks, the colors, shapes, and patterns, and the way the bird flies, and we've also maybe made a quick sketch, we can begin to identify the bird. Using a guidebook is a great way to do that. Here are some options, but there are many more. Any guidebook will do. You can also use an app like Merlin or Audubon. These ask you to put in your observations, and then it will generate some suggestions, a list of birds that could be possible, and you can just choose from that list. They're really easy to use. An adult can help you. Sarah might put some of this information in a chat box for us to look at later. We'll also want to record our sightings after we've identified the bird. And you can do this with a pen and paper that you bring with you outside. All you need to do is write the date, maybe the temperature and location, time. Once you've identified your bird, you record the bird and how many of them you see. You can also record your sightings using an app called EBIRD. An adult will help you. You can go outside with a phone and enter those sightings right into the app, right outside. You can also use the list you made with pen and paper and come back inside and put it on the computer indoors. eBird collects the bird sightings from people like you all over the world. You're conducting citizen science when you record your bird sightings and put it on eBird, because scientists can see all those sightings and draw conclusions. How many of a certain bird are where, and maybe why? You can go do a backyard bird challenge any day, multiple times a day if you want, every day. But if you're just going to try it once, a fun time to do it will be May 9th, which is coming up. It's the global big day. And that's when eBird asks everyone in the world to spend maybe a few minutes or maybe all day going out and birding and recording your sightings. Then scientists can look at this information and they get a wonderful snapshot of what the birds are doing all over the world. How many of them are where? It's a great tool and a fun thing to participate in too. Now we're going to do a bit of review. We've seen these birds throughout the program. You might remember what they are. You can point to the screen and say the name out loud if you want. I'll give you a couple minutes and then I'll reveal the answers. Okay, here we go. Did you get the black-capped chickadee, the European starling, the northern flicker, the red-breasted nuthatch, the house finch, and the American robin? You did a wonderful job. You'll be able to find these birds outside on your own backyard bird challenge. And maybe you'll see some new ones too. Thank you so much for watching today. I hope you have a lot of fun birding. And I hope we see you again next week, next Tuesday at 10:30. Sarah's put some links to follow in the chat box so you can find more information. And I'll go back to Sarah and see if there are any questions or comments that can be shared right now before we go.
Looks like we're good so far. Thanks for everyone for joining us.
Thank you, Sarah, so much for helping. I had a lot of fun today, and I hope you do too. Bye-bye.